everyone, I hope all of you are doing well. My name is Riya. I work as a software engineer at Microsoft, and let's get started for today's video. Before that, make sure you subscribe to the channel. It really motivates us to post more content more frequently. So as you all know, I have completed more than 2 years at Microsoft, and I just realized that I never really made a video talking about my interview experience. When did I really apply for Microsoft? When did I got the final acceptance call? And what all my interview experience has been. So in this video, we're gonna go through all my interview rounds that happened at Microsoft and that finally got me into acceptance. So let's get started. So before that, know that I actually applied for Microsoft while we were going through the COVID phase. And I remember I applied for Microsoft about in May 2021. I didn't apply on the careers portal. I actually pinged one of the managers at Microsoft on LinkedIn. And I just pinged him saying that, I'm looking for a job change and I would really like to apply for Microsoft. I have found a role which sort of fits my description. Would you be willing to, consider me for the role or refer me for the role? Now, to my luck, the manager actually pinged saying that, they are actually looking for someone in their team and they do have some vacancies available. And if I would be open to interviewing for those roles as well, then the HR would call me the next day to sort of, go through the work with me and go through the job description and my expectations. Now, the next day, I actually got a call from the HR talking to me about what the position is, right? What kind of an engineer they are looking, what the tech stack will be that I will have to work on, what's my current compensation, what's my expected compensation, the usual conversation that happens or that any HR does before actually starting your interview. So I think that conversation lasted for about 30 minutes and I did find the role interesting. I did find the team interesting and I thought maybe, I could try interviewing for the role and see how it goes. Okay, so it took me about a week for my final, interview rounds to actually got scheduled. I had about 4 rounds of interviews and all the rounds were completely different. To be honest, I was expecting the interview to be going a little bit more on the side of data structures, but I realized that my rounds were mostly happening on the lines of system design and, low level design, high level design. But I've seen that people who apply for a similar role at my position, they usually get more data structures questions, but that was not the process for me at all. So let's talk about the very first round. So my very first round was strictly data structures and algorithms round. I was asked about 2 questions. One question was actually based on graphs. The other question was based on linked list. And it took me about an hour to actually, the interview went on for about an hour. I had to solve both the questions in an hour. I also had to implement the code for both of those questions as well. The round pretty much went very smoothly. The questions were also not very hard as well. I felt like this was sort of like a screening round, right? They were doing basic checks if I am eligible to the role or not, or should I be proceeding for the interviews or not. I think I did pretty well in those rounds, and I think around after 2 days I got the results that I actually cleared that round, and they would want to schedule my next set of 3 rounds. And in the entire interview process, I also felt that not all the interview rounds were sort of clubbed together and then they were happening. I sort of felt like it was like a ladder interview where if you clear the first round, then only you were allowed to go to the subsequent round. If you clear the second round, then only you were going sort of for the third and the fourth round and so on. Moving on to my second round. So my second round was actually a mix of data structures and system design. So the question actually started with a simple stacks question. I think it's a very popular question also where you have to, evaluate a prefix or a postfix expression. I was simply given a question where I had to evaluate a prefix expression, including the BODMAS rules and everything. And I was able to apply the approach over there. I could identify it was a stack question and also, tell my approach to the interviewer as well. And everything went fine and very smooth. But then the things starting to get a little difficult when the interviewer actually asked me to implement the question, but not very in a typical manner. She sort of created the question or modified the implementation in such a way that, that implementation is supposed to be used by a lot of engineers on a lot of teams. So that code that I'm actually going to write has to be, scalable. It should be extendable by all the other people who are actually going to use that piece of code as well in my team, let's say if I'm working on. So then it eventually sort of evolved into system design question, a low level design question. In the end, because based on the expectations that were given and based on the requirements that were given, we actually went on and ahead and implemented the strategy pattern in system design that you usually learn, which I had to implement and, do the entire implementation for the postfix expression question over there. So I think I got the results for this round also one day later, and the round went pretty well. The HR told me that the rounds went well, and I was able to, explain my approach also. I was able to implement the code end to end as well. It was a running code also. So they were happy to proceed with the next round as well. Now we move to the third round. Now, the third round was a strictly system design round. There were no data structures and anything involved. The interviewer simply came and they said that, you have to design sort of like a toy store application, and you have to think how would you really do that. Assume that the e-commerce platform that you are implementing, it just has toys available. So this was sort of like an e-commerce application, sort of like a round only where you have to implement an e-commerce application, but they sort of tweaked it a little bit and made a toy store application. I personally feel that, especially for system design rounds, there is no correct answer or there's no wrong answer. Usually it's sort of like a conversation which goes on about, what you're really doing, which database you're really picking, what servers you're really picking, how are you really differentiating the use case for every microservice that you have, how are you implementing the gateway layer, what's the entire flow of user interaction. So I think I suggested like a bunch of things that we can really do, and then the interviewer had a bunch of follow-up questions based on that as well, on how would this implement or how would that work. So we were mostly having a very good and a very, I would say, useful and a fruitful conversation also about what all things can we do. Some places he was expecting me to do something better, so they were really guiding me in the process as well to do something else in that case, or maybe this is something that they did not want and wanted me to do something else that would give a slightly more and a optimized solution in that case. So in the end, I also had to sort of draw a diagram and a design of the entire application also. We were using draw.io. I was able to sort of implement all the boxes and all the servers, databases, implement their use cases, explain their use cases as well. So this round lasted for this was a little longer round, I feel. It lasted for about 1.5 hours. I was able to explain everything to the interviewer as well. I was able to sort of conclude my entire approach also. I also explained the pros and the cons also, just to know that, a system can always evolve and there's always a scope to do something better as well. Now, luckily, I got the results, I think 3 days later after this round, saying that I have cleared this round as well, and they would like to proceed with the final round, which was happening someone from the director level from their particular organization who wanted to have a chat with me about the role and see if I really culturally fit with the team or not. Now for the last and the final round, I was honestly expecting this round to be just about, basic conversational rounds, behavioral rounds, but I feel like this round was also pretty interesting. I think the director who came basically had a bunch of questions about basic questions. First of all, why would I really like to join the team? What are my expectations? What kind of work I would really be doing? So he actually went through everything in detail about what the team really does. And then we sort of had a very simple conversation about, him saying that, let's say there is a system, we want to implement something of sort of like a Swiggy, but on an Instamart level, where we want the groceries to be delivered in under 10 minutes. But that is happening at a very grassroots level, or tier 3 cities where they do not have warehouses available in a quite accessible manner. So how are we really going to solve that problem? So this was like, I'm just giving you a very tip of the iceberg of that question. This was sort of like a multi-fold question. If you solve one part, then you can you have to solve the next part and so on after that. We didn't really have to code anything. This was mostly sort of to understand, do I have the caliber to create or think about systems or not? So that was about, I think, for the fourth round. This round also lasted, I feel like, very long. It lasted for about 1.5 hours, but I feel the conversation again was very fruitful, and I could understand a lot of things that also are happening, not just at a very data structures level, but also at a system design level, understanding the requirements and everything related to that as well. Now the final drum roll moment, I actually got the reply 1 week later saying that I cleared all the rounds, and they were very happy to proceed with the final offer as well, and they just wanted to know when can I really join. I did take a 1 month break after I left my previous job and joined my new job. I really wanted to break. I really wanted to travel a little bit, so I took a 1 month break and I joined actually in July end, and that's how my entire Microsoft journey started. It has going really strong as of now. I really love working at Microsoft. I love the culture over here. I love the people over here, and I have an absolutely amazing learning curve as well for the time that I have been working over here. And yes, now you know what my interview process was. Remember that every interview process is really different. Each interview could be different. That happened something for you may or may not happen same with somebody else as well. But I just wanted to share my interview experience as well. Let me know if it was useful, and if you would like me to talk more about my other interview experiences that I applied for and cleared as well. Till then, I'll see you in the next video. Please make sure you subscribe to the channel if you've come this far, and thanks for watching. Bye.